So it's also limiting, you know, it's a time-consuming and cost-prohibitive theory to move forward with. Everything has to be tested. We have to look at everything under these microscopes. It's not feasible. What else is new about nano? Well, not only can we look at things that are that small now, but we can manipulate them. We can move them around. Here is IBM that is spelled out with individual atoms of xenon. Okay, IBM obviously was the sponsor of this. So what else is new about nano? So probably the underlying reason that nano is so exciting is that we do see new properties and behaviors in materials that they don't have when they're at their bulk scale. So when they're, you know, compact into a solid piece, or when they're down at the molecular scale. So if they're just a chemical. So we have novel properties and novel behaviors. And right here, this is an image, a micrograph of a hair, a human hair. The big piece here is the human hair. This little piece in front of it is a nanowire. Okay? And carbon nanotubes are one of the forerunners in nanotechnology right now, particularly in nanoelectronics. But it's also moving up in building because, as you can see here, there are 100 times, carbon nanotubes can be 100 times stronger than steel with 1/6 the weight.
You talk about that you look at them and you're able to manipulate them. Are you able to look at them without manipulating them?
Well, it depends on the system that you're looking in. So some of the systems, and depends on the material you're looking at. So some of the systems, if you dry them onto something and they're just baked onto a surface and then you gold plate them and then you look at them that way, you can see kind of the surface features of them. But I'll show you a video towards the end here that shows you that you can't sometimes do that without manipulating the sample that you're looking at and impacting it in a major way. Okay, so these materials, you know, are going to offer us, as far as building materials go, revolutionary advances. Think about, you know, being able to carry a steel I-beam like this and take it and put it where it needs to go instead of having all the major equipment that you would have to move something like that now. These materials also have unusual heat and conductivity properties where you can actually, by putting them in a different environment, they can respond differently to the environment around them. Now, one of the reasons that they have these novel properties and behaviors is because nanoparticles, when you make them so small, most of the atoms that are in the material are on the surface. So if you look at this graph here and you just know that this is increasing size as we go over there. So as you move along this axis, you're decreasing size. And you can see the percent of atoms that are on the surface of that particular particle increases exponentially. So when you're down at a very small particle size, almost all of your atoms are on the surface compared to the number of atoms that you have. And this makes them very reactive. And this kind of gets at what you were talking about. I'm going to show you here just some clips of what happens to this particular material, just because it was so reactive under the electron microscope. And so here, this is an image of erbium oxide. It's a scanning electron micrograph. And this is a 100 nanometer bar here. So it's about 400 nanometers across, this whole droplet is. Okay? Now I have to tell you, the erbium oxide that I was studying here was supposed to be 20 nanometers in diameter. Okay, so the particles were supposed to be 20 nanometers. This is an agglomerate, so all of those nanoparticles have agglomerated together and formed kind of one big hub, dry. When you add an electron beam to this, which is how we look at them, okay, it excites it, and in the corners here I have written the number of seconds that have elapsed, but you can see that the particles themselves start getting so energized that they start moving around and repelling each other, move into what their primary particle size is, and then they actually, in the end, start re-coalescing, re-agglomerating once their energy is dissipated. And so I'll show you a video of this in the end because it's really cool. Okay, but the small size of nanomaterials also makes them much more mobile. Okay, they can be transported in, you know, the environment much more rapidly. They can bioaccumulate, and they can get across protective biological membranes that we typically don't want outside materials getting across. Okay? Some of the reasons that we have these novel properties is because of the quantum phenomenology, which just means the atoms are confined in such a way that they take on different properties. Okay? And at this scale, you can see differences in, the matter just by changing the size of the material. And let me just give you an example. Visual examples are always easier for me. So, okay, these are some quantum dots, and they're all made of the same thing. They're just different sizes. Okay? So as you change the size of these materials, you can see the optical properties are changing. Okay, same thing here. Looking at the same exact materials with just changes in the shape affect the optical properties of that particular material. So very, very small changes in diameter can have a huge impact on the material's properties, to include how it might interact with anything that lives in the environment or any biological entity it might come in contact with. So nanomaterials are also extremely diverse. So what can you make a nanoparticle out of? Okay, well, any element that you want. Okay, so you pick one, and you can pick, metals. You can get some carbon-based ones. You can put those ones together in chains and make polymers, and you can make composites. So anything you can make at the bulk scale, you can make at the molecular scale. And a physicist down the hall from me reckoned that nanomaterials were much like adding a third dimension to the periodic table, where now all of a sudden size and geometry actually play a role in the properties of that particular material. And I just wanted to show you this, as this is the best visual example of diversity of nanomaterials. So nanomaterials can be made of virtually anything. Now, I'll tell you that all of these nanomaterials I'm about to show you are exactly composed of exactly the same thing. They're all pure zinc oxide, okay? They've been synthesized in a little bit different ways, but they're all pure zinc oxide. Okay, so you tell me if you think the properties of these materials might be different. When they interact with the biological system, they might have different properties. Now, if you were to assess these using the types of assays that we do right now, you would say these are all zinc oxide. And that would be your final output. But I'm pretty sure that the shape probably has an impact on where this material is going to go and what it's going to do when it gets there. So let's talk about some nanotechnology applications. So now we have, this palette that we can paint with virtually any atom that we want, and we can synthesize it using all these different methods to make it really tailored, specific to what we want it to do. So what do we want it to do? Okay, this is the I wish technology. I wish I had pants that didn't stain. Boom, you've got them. I wish I had socks that didn't smell. Boom, you've got them. So this is the type of technology that it is. So I'm going to show you some of the exciting applications that are at the forefront of development right now. So medicine and healthcare is one of those areas, other than defense, where there's been a lot of activity. And probably the most promising are some of these multifunctional drug delivery systems, where one nanoparticle can serve as a detector. It can search out, okay, let's use cancer as an example. It can search out a cancer cell. It can bind just to the cancer cell. It can release its chemical payload just at that cancer cell or within it, and then kill only that cancer cell, okay? Side effects, there wouldn't be any, okay? Because you're not killing off all the cells in your body that are dividing at that point. You're killing off very specifically the cancer cells, okay? And another one of the exciting therapeutics, and Betty had mentioned to me earlier that if I thought that cancer was going to be cured in the next 10 years, we have some really exciting things that are coming out with gold nanoparticles, where they're pretty benign to cells themselves, but what you can do is decorate them, decorate the surface of them with the chemistry that will make them go right to the cancer cells. They bind to it or are taken up by the cancer cells, and then you can use radio waves, and the radio waves heat up the gold nanoparticles and kill the cancer cells that way. Okay? And those are things that are actually in trials right now for the next generation of medicine. So, and in the U.S., this is referred to as nanomedicine.
So it's surface conformation that allows them to identify the cancer cells? And
yeah, so basically you just decorate them with folate, and cancer cells overproduce folate receptors. So when they circulate through, they're going to link on to the cancer cells specifically. But they'll actually put tags on here, fluorescent tags, so they can visualize where it goes, and then they can actually get a response from it that says payload has been, dispersed and cells dead, and get feedback from the system. So I mean, these are the next generation of medicines that will be tailored to individuals.
Stacy, how do they decompose afterwards?
That's a really good question. So that's part of what I'm doing too, is looking at the bioaccumulation and elimination properties of these materials. Now, because these are drug delivery devices and they're under the FDA, they actually make them do a lot of that testing up front, so we'll have that information on these, but I don't have that right now. But that's something that's concerning, the bioaccumulation potential of some of these things that we don't typically have breakdown mechanisms for. Suppose they all get lodged in your kidney. Well, you don't have cancer anymore, but guess what? You don't have kidneys either, right? I'm sorry. Yeah. Can I have cancer back? So, but revolutionary advances are literally on the horizon. And to evidence this, in 2009, this was how much the National Institutes of Health and the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health have put into nanotechnology. Okay, so in the electronics and technology sectors, we're making devices that, here's a transistor gate that is a mere 35 nanometers in width, okay? That makes it so that you can build a transistor that is smaller than a piece of DNA. This is a piece of DNA here, and here are the particles, okay? Those are the transistors. Here is a virus that's 100 nanometers. The transistor is smaller than that. And if you make 6 transistor SRAM cell, it's actually smaller than what a white blood cell is. So here's an actual image of one of these cells on a red blood cell, which is kind of cool.
So that's a little dated. We're doing 18 nanometers now.
Really? Okay, so, and these aren't, when I put these figures up here, I just put them as kind of a reference. They aren't necessarily spending all of this money on electronics and technology, but they are spending this much in the nanotechnology sector. So Department of Defense, obviously, here for military technologies and defense, and Department of Homeland Security together have put in almost $500 million in the last year into these technologies. In military applications, a lot of those are really driving some of the health impacts. New prosthetics, true bionics, where you're interfacing humans with electronics, where we can have nervous cells actually talking to a carbon nanotube and vice versa, and sending information back and forth. So the $16 million man could be our next soldiers. So that's why Department of Defense is